Today we are talking about a tool that sits right at the intersection of science, somatics, energy work, and psychology. And it's a tool that can look a little unconventional at first, but when you understand it, and more importantly, when you experience it, it becomes one of the most powerful ways to help clients shift their emotional states, reprogram their beliefs, your ways of experiencing life, clear past challenges, and connect with what they actually want to experience in the world. And so we are talking about EFT tapping today on the Holistic Therapy Revolution. Welcome, I am Beth Miller, and I'm excited to share this tool with you because it happens to be one of the tools that I teach at length in the Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching certification, because it's an extraordinary healing tool and holistic tool that I can teach therapists, doctors, healers quickly. And when they learn it, they're able to help clients in extraordinary ways in a very rapid and efficient manner. It's sometimes almost surprising to see how cool and how fast EFT works. And I often have clients say, I can't believe that works so fast. I can't believe that just happened. And when I assess them in our future sessions to see how they're doing with whatever that targeted issue was, I very often find that they either cannot really access the problem anymore, or they're like, oh yeah, no, that's gone. Meanwhile, it was something that was like a significant barrier in their life just weeks before. So I do remember when I learned EFT, it was over 20 years ago, and I remember learning it and saying, oh my gosh, this tool is a groundbreaker. And I still think EFT is one of the most effective and efficient models that we have for the blend of energy healing, emotional healing, mental shifts, somatic healing. And I will add to that I've been an EMDR therapist for over 25 years. I use IFS, I use Flash, I use EFT, I use the Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching model. And the reason I put EFT in my model is because I think it has extraordinary gains for self-growth seekers, but also for therapists and healers to be able to help their clients. And let me give you a little quick example of how things from our past that we may not even remember can be blocks that are still sitting in our system and might prevent our ability to have future success, and how EFT can assist with that. I'm thinking of a case where a client from the past came in being concerned about the fact that they wanted to do a new business, but they felt unable to take the steps. They just weren't taking the steps, and they felt blocked about it. It was almost like, I can't do it, and I don't know why, and I'm frustrated with myself because I'm typically a go-getter. I'm typically able to take action, and this is like a mystery to me. But they wanted this business that they really wanted to create. So when we did EFT about it, we located this earlier incident when they had started at a new school. When they started at this new school, a teacher announced that this new student was in the cafeteria and for everybody to welcome her as the new student. And that student was my client. And she felt mortified. Of course, she felt humiliated, embarrassed. She was being seen, but in a way that did not feel comfortable. Now that event became very charged for her and kind of just sat in her energetic system. And she moved forward in life, not really thinking about it anymore. And now when we were doing tapping on this contemporary issue about her wanting to move forward and have this business, but not being able to take the steps, feeling blocked, we discovered that this issue that existed from when she was a child was actually the reason for the block. There was a belief in there that standing out, being seen, being noticed by lots of people was humiliating, was devastating, was embarrassing, led to getting made fun of, etc. And so now in her contemporary life, she's afraid to stand out and to do something that would cause people to see her. Well, we worked on that issue, and then that was the key to being able to help her to be able to move forward into her business and feeling much more comfortable with being seen. So this is a really good example of how some of the issues that we've experienced in the past that we may not even remember can be the reason why we're not achieving the goals that we are today. As a matter of fact, EFT has a philosophy that a lot of the things that are the blocks now, or the difficulties now, or the physical symptoms that we have now, have points of origin that might be from the past or even recently, but those distresses in the system need to be moved, need to be healed and reprogrammed in order to be able to have the freedom to experience life in the way that we want to now. So let's talk a little bit about how EFT came to be so that you can understand what it is and why it is now. So Roger Callahan, I believe that was back in the 80s, was the first to create what was called thought field therapy. And he was a psychiatrist, and legend has it that he was treating a woman that had a phobia of water. And it was an intractable fear or phobia that he was not having too much success with. And so he brought her to a pool in order to help her perhaps with some exposure therapy, exposing her to the water. And when they arrived, she started reporting that she had some nausea. And so he happened to know the acupressure points on the body from acupuncture for nausea. And so he asked the client to start tapping below her eye on this point that's associated with nausea. She did so, and again, as legend has it, she, right after that, jumped into the pool, and the phobia had been significantly shifted. And this caused a lot of connection for him between what's happening in the physical body and also our energy meridians, and then where we experience blocks or distress. That there's an association between the blocks that we have whenever they were installed in our lives as children or as adults, and that they're kind of stuck in our meridians, and that if we tap on all of those meridians, that we might actually release this stuck thing. And so that eventually became EFT, because Gary Craig picked up the mantle there and started training a lot of people in EFT, probably did some perfecting of it. That's when I started to learn EFT. And then from there, Nick Ortner turned that into EFT tapping and created the tapping solution, which is a book, and then also the tapping solution for, back pain. And EFT has enjoyed a very prolific life from all of these people that have taught about it, and then all of the therapists like me who have been practicing it. So what actually is EFT tapping? EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. At its core, EFT is a method that combines gentle tapping on specific points of the body and focused attention on a problematic issue or emotion, and then verbal statements that bring awareness to those issues and acceptance of them, and then ultimately a reprogramming about how you want to experience that previous problem. So the tapping points are based on the meridian points in traditional Chinese medicine, similar to acupuncture, but without the needles. So when you're doing it on yourself or with a client, you're tapping on these points while activating and talking about the problem. And as you are tapping on these points, we start having a release of the problem itself, and that ultimately gives us the opportunity to be able to reprogram it. What's happening there is that the EFT is really working with the body, the mind, the nervous system, emotional memory, cognitive awareness, and your energy system. So it's really a whole body system and a whole body intervention, which is why I think it's such a great tool for the holistic therapy revolution to learn more about. So how is EFT typically used? You might have a client or yourself that is struggling with limiting beliefs or a past trauma, or not feeling like they can move forward, or they feel blocked in their career, or they have knee pain or back pain, or they have a smoking addiction, or they keep having the same kind of triggering that happens with their mom whenever they see them. And these issues and more are perfect targets for EFT. I like to say that EFT is kind of like hot sauce, like you can put that blank on anything. EFT is just really effective with almost all issues, and that's why it's worth using and trying. Also because it is a high return on investment but low risk tool to be using. So there's the identifying of a specific issue or target that you've decided to work on. And then there's a rating of intensity of how distressing it is. And then there's a tapping through sequence points while verbalizing what's happening. And then there's a repeating of that process over and over again, and then reassessing until we get to a reprogramming. Now that sounds like a lot of steps, but honestly, you can do a world of amazing things inside of a 50-minute session with clients with EFT. Very often you could bring an issue from soup to nuts in 50 minutes or in a series of several EFT sessions, because there might be lots of targets that are related. Part of the logic behind EFT is saying that the original distresses that occurred, that might have been when you were a child or even when you're an adult, have kind of gotten stuck in your energy system. And if we on purpose target that issue where it is in the physical body, and also by talking about it and activating it with its emotions, and then we're tapping on all of these points, we're overhauling or clearing out the meridians while we also are soothing the nervous system. So the nervous system being soothed while we do EFT is such an important point, because it means that we can expose ourselves to an issue, but also tap on those points at the same time, bringing the nervous system activation down, meaning that exposure to the issue is no longer causing the same activation. The activation is really starting to soften because of the way that the tapping affects the amygdala and the other parts of the nervous system. So when we're using EFT, we are regulating the nervous system, because tapping on the points is soothing that threat detection that our nervous system is involved in. And we're also interrupting stress patterns. So as the client is focusing on the distressing thoughts while tapping, it disrupts the usual stress response. We have the trigger, and then we're tapping, and then we're getting a calming response. So it's really repatterning that typical response to the problem. EFT is also capable of rewiring emotional memory. So EFT helps the brain to reconsolidate the emotional memories, meaning the memory still exists, but the emotional charge that has been paired with it or attached to it decreases. So much so that sometimes clients come in a week after I do EFT with them on something that felt really powerful for them. And I'll ask them about it, and they'll say, what? Oh yeah, no, that's not a problem anymore. It's almost as if sometimes it's even disappeared as a problem. And that's always really neat to see. EFT is also combining cognitive and somatic processing. This is really key. The clients are not just talking about their experience. They are feeling it in their body, they're staying present with it, and they're shifting it in real time. So this is why many people might experience faster emotional shifts compared to just talk therapy alone, because we're involving both the mind and the body. EFT also is like a really amazing tool for reprogramming. I have seen people have limiting beliefs that are holding them back, and then when we do EFT on it, all of a sudden their world kind of opens up. They've made this big energy shift where they become really open to something or capable of something that they had never been before, because they had beliefs about it that were causing them to feel very limited. So what kind of results can we expect from you using EFT, and how are we doing this? When used well by a good practitioner or using it on yourself in an effective way, EFT can not only help clients reduce anxiety and stress, we can use EFT, very basic level of EFT, just to calm down. Because the tapping on those acupressure points is actually tapping on the nerve bundles in the body that is soothing the stress response. So sometimes I'll tell clients, like, they don't even have to do a more advanced EFT with themselves, or they don't have to wait for me. If they're at home and they start feeling really anxious, just tap on the points, and they'll usually start getting a stress reduction just from that. And EFT also is very capable of processing trauma, as long as you're somebody that's capable of doing that with a client. Releasing those limiting beliefs, programming in new beliefs that are really going to support what you want to do and where you want to go. Your limiting beliefs can be about food, about weight, about relationships, about love, about your career, about money, and EFT does such a nice job with all of those. It decreases emotional reactivity and charge. It increases self-regulation. It makes people feel more grounded and empowered. And it's very expansive. It helps people say, like, whew, whew, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. And they'll report being able to do things that they really couldn't do before. I just used EFT the other day with somebody that was having trouble following through on a task, and there was some blocks there, some fears related to money. We did EFT. They went home and did the task right away. And that's not uncommon for EFT. That's a pretty common experience that I have with people. One of the cool things about EFT also is that the therapist or the practitioner can use it with the client in a very profound and advanced way, but there's sort of a modified or basic version that clients can use on their own at home, which means that you're giving them a tool for life. And also they have a lot of agency and self-efficacy over it, which is really fabulous. Now, if there's any part of you that's saying like, hey, I feel like I'm hearing a couple of similarities to EMDR, you're not wrong. There are similarities to EFT and EMDR, even though they're very different models. There's some similarities in basically the reprocessing and then also the reintegration of like material that was difficult for people in the past. You know, one of the reasons EMDR is pretty effective with trauma is that it actually activates the issue and then helps the system calm down. It also helps the material to actually reconsolidate in the brain in a new way. And EFT has some similarities to that. I will say that being that I'm an EMDR practitioner, I'm an EFT practitioner, I use IFS, I use Flash, all these other tools, I find EFT to be an equal performer to EMDR, if not sometimes producing even better results than EMDR, in my opinion. And I find it to be very fast and efficient. But sometimes we just look at it as like bringing the right sword to the fight. Some targets might be better with EMDR and some targets might be better with EFT. As a holistic therapist, training others to become holistic therapists, why is this such a great tool in the advanced holistic counseling model? It's essentially because EFT is really hitting on all of the parts of our being: mind, body, energy, behavior, spirituality. It's encompassing all of our whole being layers. In addition, people can become extraordinary EFT practitioners, but even the most basic level does have effectiveness for the client. Now, one last thing I do want to say about EFT for people that are interested in it is that depending on your profession, you should be aware that you need to use EFT in a way that is accordance to your ethics, according to your license, that you get a consent form to do EFT with people, that you fully explain it to people, that you be fully trained in it, so that when you're using it, you are being the most competent practitioner of that. And that's one of the reasons that I do such an expansive training in the Advanced Holistic Counseling program, is because it's not only an extraordinary model, but the more training you have in it, the more proficient and fabulous you can be at it. So I highly suggest you look into EFT tapping. You may want to even go to my website and look at some of the videos that I have there, positivecounselingli.com. So thank you for your curiosity, for your openness, and also for your interest in learning how we can align our beings beyond just talk, because talk has its limitations and it also has its assets.